Ah, power scaling. I love it. You love it. We all love power scaling. Sure, there's some horrible power scaling takes, but at the end of the day, we love power scaling. And that's what I'm here to do in the new hit series, SENGEKI Legends by Animate Productions. My good. So, the usual, I will be pointing out 1. Plot holes, if I find any. 2. Just a general overview of the series and what to expect for those who decide to go watch it. And 3. The most important thing, power scaling the series. And I'm going to be completely honest, I decided that I would just power scale one character because 1, there's a lot of characters in SENGEKI Legends to power scale, and that would not be very easy. However, I did decide to power scale the main character since that made the most sense, and that's what I did for Life After Giants remake. So yeah, I say we get right into it. Alright, so I thought it would be best to start off with things that I noticed in the series that I found quite memorable. This has little to nothing to do with the power scaling, but I will probably timestamp it like I did like I did in the last video, and you could just skip to the power scaling part if you don't want to listen to this. But in episode 3, Sasha asks Sage, did we beat that bucket of bolts? When she did absolutely nothing, Sage single-handedly took it down. So who is we? We did nothing. Sage carried, and technically Sage didn't even carry because he was kind of still alive. Spoiler alert. So yeah, there's that. In episode 3, the robot that Sage allegedly destroyed performs a, at bare minimum, multi-continental feat. Now this has something to do with the power scaling, but I'll probably just say it again when I reach the actual power scaling section. But the reason why I pointed this out is primarily because this is likely going to be the peak of all the characters in the series. I'm going to be completely honest, because I can't scale characters from like other YouTube channels because people get downscaled on other channels. You know what I'm saying? Like the Blazing Green from Blaze's channel wouldn't be as strong as the Blazing Green from my channel, and another channel might make him stronger or weaker. So that's also why I say that this multi-continental feat would be the strongest feat for the original characters of SENGEKI Legends. Just keep that in mind. Now, for some reason, I have episode 4 at 7:09. Hikara says Kaioken ×2. I have no idea why this is here. I just kind of wrote it down in my notes. I think I was supposed to put this in the power scaling section of the notes, but yeah, Kaioken ×2, ladies and gentlemen. In episode 4, timestamp 8:23, Hikara just casually risks his body in a friendly sparring match. Average stuff. Just casually. Hey, I know we're supposed to go all out in this fight, but the chances of me killing myself while battling my friend? Yeah, I'm willing to take that risk. You're not a multi-continental threat. You're just my friend. I'm willing to kill myself for this battle because plot, I guess. Now, on a serious note, in that same battle where Hikara goes Kaioken, like I think it was times 10, 3, I don't remember the exact number, but because I didn't write it down. But what I do find interesting is, well, I'm gonna say what I have written down exactly. Senju cooked my goat, but on a serious note, it was very clever making Senju win rather than Hikara, because again, it shows that even with a body shattering technique, he still can't just win by breaking his body. It actually reminds me of Rain vs. Banuku in the most recent Dimensions video, and that's actually amazing because I like the idea of making the main character not be like always extremely broken and capable of soloing the verse. And I know this sounds hypocritical because Oceanic Blaze is absolutely busted in Silly's origins right now, but there's a reason, and no spoilers. But yeah, and the idea of the character, like the MC's nuts, because if there's one thing that I see very often in many like shonen gacha animations, it's characters that are unbelievably busted and play a main role in the series. And that's completely fine because I love stories that do that as well, but at the same time it's difficult to feel the struggle of the character. It's kind of like watching One Punch Man. Most people watch One Punch Man and see Saitama on the screen and they're like, yeah, problem solved. They're not like, no, he's gonna struggle, unless a very powerful opponent comes, and then they're kind of worried like, damn, he might get cooked. Another thing I'd like to point out is that I'm gonna be completely honest, I thought Senju was a girl. Respectfully, I did not, like, based off of Senju's design and the fact that he was introduced alongside Sage. I thought both him and Sage were girls, and yeah, I was wrong. But like, you can't blame me. Like, Senju has a very misleading design. Come on, I'm not the only one that sees it. Also, Sage is very tall compared to people who I think are her age. Now we're getting into the personal like section because I really don't want to sound like I'm just bashing the series. I promise every negative comment I make about any series on the channel is constructive criticism and not hate towards the series, because I love any form of shonen gacha. Most of them motivate me for like ideas on my series, honestly, this one included actually. But personal likes, I really appreciate how Hikara isn't a busted prodigy with ultra mega high potential. And come on, I can't be the only one who agrees with this. As much as I genuinely love seeing characters seem like they can One Punch Man, that, like, oh my god, I read that horribly wrong. As much as I genuinely love seeing characters seem like the One Punch Man of their verse, like Obi and Silly's origin, I literally have that written down here, it's also just as great to see the growth and weakness of characters in the early stages of their series, like FS in Zio's origin. Hikara being drastically basic. Oh my god, I can't read. As I was saying, Hikara being basically the weakest is interesting because it makes his moments as the strongest seem more like hard work than talent. In other words, it makes his moments seem like how Goku trained before Namek rather than how Gohan went beast in the movie. To this day, I'm pissed at how they did that transformation, can't lie. Okay, this next point, I actually read it before recording this, so if I mess up, I'm going to tweak. Since the Kaioken technique was unlocked via Rage in SENGEKI Legends, it's safe to assume that instead of needing mastery over your ki, like Dragon Ball, the Kaioken Hikara used is linked more to emotions and energy output, sort of like going Super Saiyan for lack of a better comparison, which I genuinely find as an interesting take on the Kaioken technique, because a few other series that include the Kaioken technique sort of treat it as like basically what goes on in this series, where instead of it being like a different thing from Super Saiyan, it's sort of treated as the basic equivalent of a transformation, but with numbers, multipliers, numericals, blah blah blah. Another thing I find really cool was the little transitions that SENGEKI Legends had, where I'll play a little clip of what I'm talking about because I don't know how to describe it. But yeah, the little like mini cuts to the next like portion of the episode is really cool, and it reminds me of like Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen in a way, very 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 interesting. This next point is long, so if I mess up, you guys know why. I greatly appreciate the fact that none of the characters are overlooked. everyone strives to become stronger, and the show doesn't only focus on the progress of the MC. In fact, I'd say we've seen a similar amount of growth between Hikara and Senju, which is great because it means we don't necessarily have to worry about characters getting sidelined or severely downscaled, which is something I personally really like, because honestly it's tough to keep up with a bunch of characters at once, because I'm gonna be completely honest, there have been many moments where I just forgot characters existed and sort of give them like mini cameos in the episode, or I just don't know what to do at all and don't show them in the episode at all. And it's tough because look at the count how many characters there are on my channel and then multiply it by 2, because I have 2 series. Then I'm gonna have a 3rd series, so you gotta multiply it by 3. So if we could somehow get consistent lore on the characters and just keep up with the small group that it is now, that would be great. If more characters get added along the line, that would be awesome as well. But as long as we get consistent lore with the characters, that's all I want, bro. Just please keep up with the characters and don't get anybody sidelined or off screen or just I left the series for 7 episodes and came back with 18 new transformations. Also, could we talk about the Spenjitzu? You have made it. You have either skipped to this point and completely ignored my very good comedy skills in the beginning of the video, or you didn't skip to the point, made it all the way here, and realized that I'm not funny. Anyway, I've decided that in terms of Hikara's scaling, low ball Hikara, multi-continental, mid ball Hikara, high multi-continental, and high ball Hikara, planetary. Now I'm gonna be completely honest, I totally understand if the characters are stronger, because Christian and all the other non-original characters in the series. I totally understand if all the other original characters are strong as a result of them being there, but I'm gonna be completely honest, I was so limited on how many feats I could use. There was only one on-screen feat and there were almost 0 statements, and that's not a problem, it just makes it a little bit more difficult to power scale, and that's kind of fine. But it's hard to power scale a series when you only have one multi-continental feat that could be argued to be planetary, and a bunch of multiversal characters that don't technically belong in the series in terms of being on the channel. Anyway, as usual, we have to power scaling points. I have them written down here. The robot was able to perform a feat that looked multi-continental on screen. Hikara would scale above this feat in his Kaioken form, as he was able to take down the robot, who performed this feat while damaged by Sage's initial slash attack. Now, the thing is, the multi-continental feat I'm talking about is that little, I think it's Dragon Ball image of the... No, it's not Dragon Ball. But it's that little clip of the Earth blowing up that a lot of people use in their animations, and it's very difficult to either whether or not to scale it to planetary or multi-continental, because the reason why I scaled it to multi-continental is because after the shot of it of the Earth, of the little explosion on the planet, once it fades back, we realize that the planet is still there, so the planet didn't get destroyed, so it can't be considered a planetary feat technically. But at the same time, the actual explosion, the visual clip of the explosion looks like it could obliterate a planet. So just to be safe, I made low ball Hikara multi-continental because he does scale above the feat, but he could be argued to be planetary because the feat could technically be planetary based off of how you perceive it. So yeah, that's up to you guys. Now this next point helps highlight what I was talking about earlier about the whole introducing characters from other channels on like into the series. It's not easy to tell whether the Christian from SENGEKI Legends experienced the exact same events as Christian, King of Demon X himself. Due to this, I didn't scale Hikara anywhere near the collab characters and instead focused on scaling him to the characters Animate Productions made himself, as they're the most accurate to scale off of. And I know that's technically like it could be considered unfair, but at the same time, I don't know how strong he thinks Christian is, and I don't know how strong he thinks Akirito is, so it's difficult for me to scale based off of what Animate Productions thinks, because he could think these guys are boundless, and Christian could think they're multiversal, and I could think they're, I don't know, fifth dimensional. So I just scaled it based off of the characters that Animate Productions knows for sure, the scaling of that being his original characters, like Senju and Sasha and Hikara. But as a result, it could technically be considered downscaling the characters, which again, I'm not intentionally downscaling the characters. I just can't upscale them because I don't know how strong Christian, King of Demon X is, because one, we don't see any like crazy feats from them. We kind of just see them transform, and then a bunch of weaker characters is able to kind of keep up with them, which is very strange power scaling, which again goes back to my point of how strong does Animate Productions think the collab characters are, you know? But yeah, this next power scaling point doesn't really have much to do with Hikara himself, but like I said earlier in the video, I wasn't going to be just power scaling Hikara. I was just gonna like briefly mention a couple feats from the other characters as well, and this is one of them. The strongest student based off on-screen feats would be Senju as of episode 6, using his Thunder Shock form. And I made this note while I was watching episode 6. So, and it's technically still true even in the episodes after episode 6. So it's not to be taken with a grain of salt. Senju is likely the strongest, and even if he isn't the strongest, he still most certainly has the most potential. My next point is I dubbed Senju as the character with the most potential, as his rage boosts gave him the most significant results in battle. He quite literally went from Kaioken level to Super Saiyan in a matter of episodes, because like that's not really like something that's done normal. Like imagine Gohan before he got the ultimate form was already Super Saiyan 3 level, and then gets the ultimate form and then he's just broken. That's basically how strong Senju is, and by no means is it wonky power scale. It's just mad, because it just goes to show how strong Senju is, and it's not even bad writing, actually. It makes sense. He is the grandson of the literal trainer of all these students, so it makes sense for him to have a high amount of potential, especially if we consider that this series is influenced by Dragon Ball, and in Dragon Ball we know that the kids of warriors tend to be like unreasonably busted. My next feat of Senju would be Senju battled Alcatraz, a character far beyond anything the students performed in episodes 1 to 6. Due to Alcatraz significantly higher battle power, it's reasonable to assume that he is in fact confirmed planetary, thus putting Senju relative to that scaling. So low to mid-ball Senju would likely be planetary at the bare minimum. And I know I sounded absolutely dyslexic reading that, but yeah, I'm reading these, these are all one takes, unless I decide to like, you know, pause the recording for a bit and then like recite it before actually reading it off, which I'm not gonna do every time because I'm on a time crunch here. But yeah, basically my point is this is more another Senju feat rather than actually being like, again, a Hikara feat. And this again upscale Senju. You know, I'm beginning to think about it. Why didn't I just power scale Senju? I have like more feats from him than I do of Hikara, which is insane because Hikara is the MC. But anyway, yeah, this is another crazy feat done by Senju, and again goes to show his potential is absolutely bonkers. Not sure how much of a feat this would count as, but Senju was able to disprove the data of Alcatraz's fight simulations. In other words, he rendered an earth-destroying threat basically powerless against him. This is just after one transformation, by the way. This robot literally just pulls up and he's like, I know your every move, I know exactly what you're gonna do. I could win this fight. I've been training for a long time fighting you in my simulations. I could beat you now. And then Senju's just like, nah, I'd win. My next point is here's an image of us finally learning who Top Dog really is. As we learn that Sasha's been holding back due to her Saiyan heritage, so Senju now has the second most potential. Cause clearly Sasha has the most, because at the end of the day, Senju's only human. I mean, Sasha only goes Super Saiyan as of the most recent episode. And like Senju would scale to Super Saiyan, at least the multiplier. So I mean, there's a chance that Senju's still the most broken, but like, Sasha has been hyped up the entire series to be this busted character, so it's tough to determine now. I'm just saying, Hikara is getting slowly lowered to the bottom of the scale, and I'm so sorry. This video was supposed to be all about him. So we finally reached the conclusion of the video, and I actually wrote a conclusion, meaning I have to read this conclusion. Meaning I'm probably going to mess up because this is longer than many of the points that I wrote out. I'm cooked, guys, but here we go. To wrap things up, I'd like to say that my brief review was primarily just me pointing out moments that I found interesting, and honestly doesn't do any justice to the actual series itself, which it doesn't. SENGEKI Legends is a great series and I highly recommend checking it out before the episode count gets too high, and of course, go subscribe to Anime Productions now! Since we wouldn't have this review video without him. Power scaling this series wasn't easy since there was a lot of characters and not that many visuals on screen feats. But to alleviate that issue, I just power scaled Hikara, which was a lie, and listed the feats of the characters listed the feats of the characters stronger than him. Anyways, hopefully I get better at making these review/scaling videos in the future, because oh my god, dude, they are so like poor quality. Anyway, have a great day or night, guys, and hopefully I see you guys again on the next video. And I have no intention of stopping making these. I will continue to make them until I've successfully reviewed every series that, I get permission to review. Otherwise, I'm just like, power scaling a random person series and they have no idea about it.